Good morning. Welcome back to Feet Body. Feet Body. Welcome back to Feet Body Secrets. I can't start that over again. I'm just going to roll with it. Welcome back to Fit Body Secrets, where my mission is to bring you guys inspiration, motivation, and a ton of tips to help y'all on your fitness and your fat loss journey. I'm going to go ahead and get myself live on Instagram, so bear with me. My YouTube subscribers get on first. Good morning, Instagram family. Good morning, YouTube family. Good morning, Facebook family. How's everybody doing today? I'm 9 minutes late because I was trying to figure something out and I can't figure it out. So StreamYard has been doing some weird things and I can't find my background, and I was playing around with it, trying to find it. No idea. I'm the girl that likes to talk about nutrition and coach nutrition and do nutrition stuff and fitness stuff, but the techie stuff, not really my thing. So I'll figure that out after I finish this up. So guys, I put a poll out there and I was actually happy because I was wanting to talk about this topic today and wasn't sure what your guys' interest was going to be in it. Body recomposition, AKA I want to lose fat, I want to lose muscle, I want to have the best of both worlds. And today I'm going to tell you how to get the best of both worlds, because this is something that kind of has I want to say some conflicting beliefs about. Like some people say, you can't body recomp, you got to be in a calorie surplus to build, and yada, yada, yada. And I want to explain some things to you guys that you guys know what you should be doing with your training and your nutrition based on where you're currently at, if your goal is to lose fat and build muscle. And at the end of the day, the goal really is we should get to a place where we no longer have to lose body fat and we're always building muscle. Like that's really the goal, is that we're always trying to work to either build more muscle tissue or maintain the muscle tissue that we currently have as we age. Because every year after the age of 40, you become more sarcopenic. And as somebody that is 39 years old, you better believe I am thinking about that right now and making sure that I'm doing everything I can to make sure that my body has as much muscle building potential as it can. So let's get into it. And as I'm going, if you guys have questions about this topic, whether you're on Instagram or you're on Facebook or you're on YouTube, just pop them in the chat for me and I'll make sure that I go back and answer them. If I don't answer them right away, you got to stay on, because I'll probably get deep into my talk and I won't be looking at that. And I always will scroll through at the end and kind of see what things you guys might have. But I will periodically kind of look and see if anybody's added anything on there that is relevant to what I'm talking about at the moment. So body recomposition. I want to lose fat. I want to build muscle. I want to look good naked. A lot of you guys are already putting in the work in the gym. And that's what I kind of want to start with, is understanding the two different, I want to say the metabolic pathways that we are looking at when we're talking about fat loss and building muscle. So fat loss is a catabolic process. Okay, so fat loss is we are actually getting the body's signals to break down stored tissue. And we do this by essentially emptying the gas tank. When you are burning fat, you are losing body fat. It means that you have no carbs, no energy, no fats no dietary fats stored as triglycerides or glycogen. And your body's like, where am I going to get energy from? Oh, okay, I've got this stored body fat. And now it's going to use that fat as a energy source. And I can go into a whole nother talk about how we want to make sure that we have the right amount of calories on board, because if we do this too long, our body starts to get signals that there's not enough energy going in, and it won't burn fat. It'll start to just not do things. It'll just start to turn the lights off on certain things it should be doing. But that's not today's topic. I could go through other topics. So fat loss is a catabolic process. Building muscle is an anabolic process, which means we are building tissue. This means that we need to have enough energy on board to allow our body to recover from the training, so to build that new tissue. And this is where people in the bodybuilding community go down that whole, the rabbit hole of bulking and cutting. Okay. That is totally unnecessary for most people, unless you are in the sport of bodybuilding and you are training like that much for muscle gains, like you're doing the 90 to 2 hour sessions, 5 to 6 days a week, really hitting it hard. You don't need that kind of energy surplus. And it's, I don't even know if you need it at all, even if you are doing that. And I'm going to explain why today. It does make it easier. It's kind of like covering the basics to make sure that you have enough. But if it's not necessary, why make yourself fatter just to have to lose fat again? Like that doesn't make sense, right? Like it just doesn't make sense that you should have to walk around liking your body half the year to hate your body the other half the year, right? Like that's not what most people are looking for. Most people are looking for like, I want to be able to look a certain way year round. And yeah, maybe you put on a few pounds here and there around the holidays or whatnot, but it shouldn't be so much. You're like, oh my God, I got to go on this like another 12 to 16 week cut. Like, no, that's not the goal. And that's what I really want to talk to you guys about today is how to actually achieve body recomposition. So, oops, I just spilled my coffee. All right. So the first things first, let me just clean it up. Y'all get messy ass Coach Cheryl every single Tuesday. Although I think my cat is sleeping, so we won't have any issues with that. Okay. So we know now fat loss and building muscle are essentially two opposite processes. One is catabolic, breaking tissue down. One is anabolic, we're building tissue up. The first thing you have to know is what is your current body fat percentage? That is going to be the estimation of how much fat mass you have in relation to lean mass you have, or I should say fat-free mass you have, because that's not muscle mass versus fat mass. That's muscle plus bones plus organs plus water versus the actual amount of body fat. And I like to think of it like it sounds dumb, but if you think about dissecting an animal, if you think about like your meat you get at a butcher, right? Like the fat versus the muscle, but also add the bones and all the other stuff to it too. So it's kind of gross, but that's really what I'm kind of getting down to. But you need to know what your body fat percentage is. Why? You don't have to have an actual amount, but you have to have an estimation. You can use photos for this. You can use measurements. If you have excess body fat, as I mentioned, fat loss is a catabolic process. And if you have a lack of energy coming in via calories, your body will burn through stored body fats in order to run those processes. Okay. So even though we need energy for muscle building, I want you to hear what I'm saying here. If you have extra fat on your body is going to learn to use that fat as a substrate of energy to help fuel whatever processes it needs to take out, which in one case can be building muscle. Okay. So you need to know what your body fat percentage is. If you are somebody who is already at a low body fat percentage, meaning you don't have a lot of fat on you, but you also don't have a lot of muscle, okay, so you don't like the way you look, you are somebody who needs to be looking to build muscle. This means you should be eating at maintenance and saying, fuck the scale. The scale is going to stay the same, maybe go up a few pounds, maybe a few more pounds, but your goal is to build muscle. Now, we don't need to bulk. We don't need to put on excess body fat in order to do this. We just have to make sure that we're training enough to facilitate building muscle, because you have to have a stressor in order for the body to create the stimulus of needing more muscle tissue. And I can kind of go down a rabbit hole of that too. Okay. So you need to have enough energy for that. You need to have enough training for that, but you don't need to put on extra body fat for that as long as you're giving yourself enough calories. Okay. So if your goal is, I would like to build muscle and not put on more body fat, you've got to be dialed in at maintenance calories. And you've got to be if you really truly want to build muscle, not put on fat, this is actually the hardest way to do it, right? It's easier just to go into a surplus and put on extra body fat, but then be miserable with how you look, okay? A lean bulk is a lot more dialed in. It's a lot more disciplined. It's a lot more calculated, but it's going to keep your body always looking good. You're not going to get worse before you get better. You're going to always get better. Like that's the goal there. Okay. So that's if you're at a low body fat percentage already, you don't have a lot of muscle on you. And typically this is somebody who, I don't want to use the term, but like quote unquote skinny fat, not really has a lot of training background, hasn't been lifting weights very long, a lot of group exercise classes, not ever actually really putting enough strength in their, emphasis on strength training to build muscle tissue. Okay. Now, if you are somebody who has enough body fat, okay, you're like, I have this extra fat, you're looking in the mirror, you have an extra layer of fat, but you have been training for quite a while, you have a good amount of muscle tissue on you. And even if you don't know that yet, maybe you have quite a bit of weight to lose. Like maybe you have 30, 40, 50, or 100 pounds to lose, but regardless of what you're at in your training, you have this extra fat. you should be primarily focusing on fat loss, okay, with dialing in still the right amount of calories. Now, the more body fat you have, the more aggressive you can be with your calorie drop because you have a lot of extra fat. The less body fat you have, the less extreme you want to go with your calorie cuts, because if you go too low, as I mentioned, your body will simply adapt. And this is where if you're going too low or you're shooting for body composition changes too quickly, you're going to think that the scale weight going down is a good thing. And oftentimes what I find that that's not a good thing, because what's happening is your body is adapting by saying, hey, there's not enough calories, so I'm just going to burn more calories. Muscle mass burns a lot of calories to maintain. It's why having it increases your lean muscle mass, or I'm sorry, increases your basal metabolic rate. So if we're going too quickly, you will start to lose muscle mass. You will start to get fatter as you get lower in weight. Yes, that is a true thing. You can actually diet yourself fatter. Nobody wants to lose weight only to be told their body fat percentage has gone up. And I have actually seen this happen to somebody when I was working at a CrossFit gym years ago. He was like so hell-bent on losing the weight, he did not care about what he was losing. And he lost a bunch of weight. But when I retook his body fat percentage after I think it was like a 6-month program, he had actually gained, his body fat percentage had went up. His ratio of muscle mass to fat-free mass had went up. Our muscle mass to fat mass went up. So we want to make sure that we are looking at losing the fat while building muscle. Okay. And that means that we have enough calories on board to make sure that we are feeling good in our workouts. We're still getting a good stimulus there, but actually still being in a deficit to get our body the signals that, hey, like we have to burn through this stored energy. And the closer you are, the lower on your body fat percentage you are, the more you have to think about being a little bit more strategic with this, because if you go for too long, your body adapts. You have to kind of find the sweet spot. And it's why every single person does have a different plan or a different thing that might work for them. Again, people with a lot more body fat to lose, I can diet them for a lot longer because you have a lot more extra. It's just, hey, you got a little extra cushion. It's okay. You're on the journey to getting it off. I'm here to help you. Okay. So again, let me just kind of recap where I'm at. All right. If you are at a low body fat percentage, but you also don't have a lot of muscle, your goal should not be scale focused. It should be, I need to fuel to keep building muscle. My weight should stay about the same or trickle up ever so slowly so that I'm only putting on muscle mass and not putting on extra body fat. If you have a higher body fat percentage, you have fat to lose, you need to be going through a fat loss phase. Get the fat off, trim the fat, see what's underneath the fat, see what your body looks like without the fat, because that's actually it's useless weight. It's not making you any better. If you have extra body fat, getting it off is only going to improve your performance. I love using the racehorse as a great analogy for this, because I'm not into like the Kentucky Derby and stuff like that, but I do know a little bit about those racehorses from reading some things and going into some studies. They are so dialed in with the body fat percentage on those horses because every pound on those horses is going to make them slower. So those horses are so conditioned. That's why they look like if you've ever looked at a racehorse, they're shredded. Like talking about like animals, like there is not an ounce of fat on them because they want to be as sprinty as possible. Now that's their season, right? So we don't get that shredded, but it is important to know that like if you have extra body fat, let's see what's under there. Let's get you to a place where you're like, okay, I now have enough body fat to feel good, but I still need to be building muscle. Fat loss is a temporary process. Even if it feels like it's going to take you a year or two, if you have a lot of weight to lose, because I've got some clients that have 50 plus pounds to lose, and I know it's a long-term commitment, right? But thinking about that and as a snapshot of your entire life, all right? So even if you took 2 years to lose 100 pounds out of, call it 50 years, 2 out of 50 is what percentage is that? Let me just do some quick calculations because I'm slow. 2 divided by 50, that's less than 0.04. So that's what, 4% of your entire life, right? Like that's only at age 50. Okay. So that's with 2 years. So now thinking of like, all right, I'm going to go through a 6-month fat loss phase. get myself a little bit leaner, and then I'm going to build some muscle. That is how you are going to get the best body composition changes. So fat loss is a temporary process. We want to shred first, get it done, see what's underneath the covers, okay? And then it's the lifelong commitment to training to build lean muscle and eating to build lean muscle, not starving yourselves all the time. And that's why I really wanted to talk about this topic, because here's the problem that a lot of you guys are facing, all right? You're not training hard enough in the gym because you're freaking underfueled, all right? You're not getting enough energy. You're not taking enough carbohydrates. You're tired. You're like, oh, I'm just going to get through this workout. And you're just getting through every single workout. You're like checking the boxes, and you're not putting in the work because you don't have the fuel, all right? You're not recovering enough from those workouts. And you're going through this like lifelong pursuit of fat loss. The only time you're ever focusing on your nutrition is, I got to go on a diet to lose weight. But you never actually get to a place where you're happy with where you're at and you're maintaining it. And that's where you're running into a problem, because you're constantly going into a restrictive protocol rather than knowing what it feels to just be fueling to build muscle tissue. Okay, so get in and get out of your fat loss phase. Rip the Band-Aid off and go get it done. Like I've went through, well, let me just think about this. I started my first fat loss journey when I was 19 years old. Okay. And I started with fitness first. I said, I am just going to start working out. And it made me feel good. And I was like, all right, that's feeling so good. Let me start dialing in my nutrition. And it motivated me to start dialing in my nutrition. And I lost the fat first. Okay. Now we can go down the rabbit hole of, I, like many of you guys, had been in a place where like something worked until it didn't work. And I could no longer sustain the diet. And I was binging, and then I was restricting, and I was all over the place, and I regained the weight again. And then I had to lose it again. Okay. But when I finally understood what I was missing, which was shifting from fat loss into maintenance, I was able to take control of my body and now spend time for years just fueling to build and maintain my lean muscle mass, staying around the same body fat percentage. I've been around the same body fat percentage for the last 10 years. I'd say about 10 years now. I've been around the same body fat percentage. Has my weight changed? Yes, it has. I've lost some weight. I've gained a little bit of weight and lost some weight again, but not a whole bunch. And my body fat percentage across all of those things has stayed pretty much the same. Okay. Because I've learned how to actually fuel to build muscle mass. And obviously, like I mentioned last year, I did go through a really tough time. I did lose some muscle, but my weight went down. So I also lost a little bit of fat as well. So even though I lost weight, it wasn't just fat or muscle. It was a little bit of both. And that's really the goal. And right now, as I'm going through my own building phase, okay, I am at a lean body mass. I am not somebody that has extra body fat. So I am trying to manipulate my body weight by going up nice and slow to build muscle mass without putting on extra body fat. I am in a slight calorie surplus most days, but I'm not looking at doing this so quickly. In fact, I am 127 pounds now. And man, last year at my lowest, I got down to 116, and that was just entirely too low for me. So, but if I look back at like this past year, I've really put on about, call it, let's see, January, really only about 3 or 4 pounds since January. Okay, so January, February, March, that's about a pound a month. And that's a good rate for pure muscle minimizing fat gain. Okay, so what should you be doing right now? Couple of main things that I want to really point out. Regardless of if your goals are, you need to build, like, you don't have a lot of body fat, you also don't have a lot of muscle, and you want to build both of those, you want to build up your muscle mass. Okay. You should be resistance training, and you should be eating at maintenance, or some days maybe slightly above maintenance. Okay. Very, very, very important. Resistance training, and recovery from resistance training. If that's CrossFit, if it's in the regular Globo gym, you are hitting lots of volume on strength training, and not just one muscle group. Don't neglect your leg day. Leg days are the most important days. I hate them, but as somebody right now, that's where I lost the majority of my muscle mass. I also am loving the fact that I can actually work to put new muscle on. Okay, so we want to make sure we're doing our training, we're doing our recovery, we're getting our food in. If your goal is to lose fat, okay, and you want to see what's underneath the covers, you need to be resistance training. All right, so I don't care like what your goals are. You want to tone up, all those goals, tone up, get leaner, look leaner longer. Okay, that means you need to be resistance training. You can add cardio in as a tool for fat loss, but you need to be resistance training. I cannot say it enough. Okay, so what are you hearing right now? If your goals are body recomposition, the one non-negotiable is you need to be resistance training, and you need to be resistance training with enough intensity. Okay, so that means that you're not just like, oh, when you're seeing Bulgarian split squats, I'm guilty of this. I fucking hate Bulgarian split squats, but I see them and I grab the 25-pound dumbbells because I know 10 to 12 reps is like, those will feel okay. I probably should be doing Bulgarian split squats with 50 to 70 pounds. All right. So like in order for you to see muscle growth, you've got to be giving the muscles the signal that you need more muscle. What happens is we get this external load that is placed upon our muscle groups. And it's like, oh my gosh, that was really heavy. Over time, you keep doing that. Your body's getting signals that it needs more mass to lift those muscle or to lift those weights. That's how we build muscle tissue. Okay. So we need to get those signals. You can do all the Bernie reps you want with banded squats and all that stupid shit that influencers tell you about how they grew their glutes using banded walks. It's bullshit. You got to lift heavy. You got to be doing compound lifts heavy enough. All right. So that's it. You can use dumbbells, but you got to put the pink dumbbells away and get the heavy weights out. You're not going to get bulky. I promise. It's impossible. As somebody who has been trying to build muscle for years, my genetic potential is just it. Some people do see more definition in some areas more than others, but you're not going to get bulky. Okay. So the common trend here, you got to be lifting weights. I want you strong. You got to be strong. If you want to look like an athlete, you got to be lifting like an athlete. Okay. So you got to be strong. And now, if your goal is fat loss, as I mentioned, for those of you guys trying to build and you're at a low body fat, you're looking at maintenance. If you're in a fat loss phase, you need to be controlling your calorie intake and prioritizing protein and carbs. In a fat loss phase, when body recomp is your goal, you want to keep fat at a level that is enough to support hormones, but to allow you the most calories possible for carbohydrates and protein. Why? Because protein, essential amino acids are what help rebuild your muscles. So we need to be getting around 1 gram per pound of body weight or goal body weight or lean body weight, somewhere in that range. So like if you're 195 pounds and ideally for you to be at the right body fat percentage, you would need to be about 155. Let's shoot for 155, okay? You want to keep those calories as much as you can for that. And then carbohydrates. Why carbohydrates over fat? Which is why I was going to talk about this today on this podcast. Okay, well, one of the reasons why. Carbohydrates are, when we take in carbohydrates, obviously there's going to be some nutrients in them, especially if you're getting high quality carbohydrates. But carbohydrates are going to be stored in your muscles and your liver as glycogen. Okay, so fat, on the other hand, gets broken down into essential amino acids, and extra fat gets stored in your fat cells as triglycerides. Okay, so this is actually more likely to be stored as body fat, not burned as fat, or not burned. Carbohydrates, on the other hand, we all have a different amount of glycogen storage potential. Okay, for some women, it could be anywhere from like 700 to 1,000 grams. Actually, that's how high you can go between your muscle. Depends on the athletes. The average person, probably somewhere between 400 and 600. The average athlete, I'll say, the average active person. Okay, so we all have a genetic potential, or I'm sorry, a glycogen storage potential. Okay, so by prioritizing calories for carbohydrates, keeping your glycogen levels topped off, you are ensuring that you have more energy for your strength training, because strength training is mostly glycolytic, okay, especially when you're getting in those 8 to 15 rep ranges, which is if you're doing CrossFit workouts, that's your hypertrophy work. When it says 21, 15, 9, and you're going unbroken and you're feeling the burn and you're close to failure, guess what? That's you doing a set of 21 reps on a dumbbell bench press in the gym, okay? So it's the same thing. You've got to be fueling for those big sets, those That's what you really want. That glycogen is going to be on board for that. Okay. So we want to, our goal is to control calories, but prioritizing protein and carbohydrates while getting enough fats. Okay. That's your goal when you're trying to build a fat loss phase. The other thing that I'm going to say about this, and I already kind of talked about it, but I'm going to really reiterate. If you have fat loss goals, you know you have fat to lose, stop going half in and half out. Like, give yourself a freaking timeline. Now, there's not going to be like the perfect timeline, right? We all are going to have things that come up that kind of stall us. But like, if you've got 10 to 15 pounds to lose, that should not take you more than 12 to 16 weeks. That's it. 12 to 16 weeks and get it done. Why have you not done that yet? Why have you not been able to maintain that yet? Because you haven't learned how to go from let's be in a fat loss phase, let's be in maintenance. Okay. So like, that's really what you need. You need the little bit of that tough love to say, yo, I'm going all in on my goals right now because I don't want to live the next 2 to 3 years trying to slough off this 15 pounds. Like, it's, just get it off, get it done. Try and do it in a way that feels sustainable, right? Like, you should still be able to, if you have a vacation come up, if you have social meals, like, you should still be able to do that. But if you want to lose fat, there's going to be some discomfort involved. So get uncomfortable and get it done. Like, think of it like a CrossFit workout. If you've got a 10-round workout to do, you can surely take your time dabbling around, go get some water, get some chalk, this and that. But like, that every time you do that, like, it's just making it take even longer. And then like, you're looking at the clock and you're like, oh my God, I should have been done 5 minutes ago. Right? Like, we've all been there. I was there yesterday. So I totally get it. All right. So we want to make sure that we just get in and we get out. And where if you do have maybe 20, 50, 100 pounds to lose, we're looking at a little bit of like taking some diet breaks. So like, we're going through phases. We're like, yeah, like, we're going to go hard for like 12 to 16 weeks. Let's see how you're feeling then and there. And maybe we take like a little maintenance break and we maintain your fat loss a little bit. Then we do it again. You got to stop being in such a rush and realize that the reason why you're not getting anywhere, even though you're rushing, is because you're not staying committed long enough to that short-term phase. Like, get that shit over with so you can get back to building muscle, So that's really the main goal. And I'm getting a little fired up now. Okay. So I want to just kind of clarify everything and make sure that I don't have any other questions or anything on there. If anything that I'm talking about right now is bringing up some questions for you guys, please let me know. Nana Honey, let me go back to that. Where is it? Nana Honey. How does one find out their body fat measurement? Okay, there's a couple of ways to do this. One, you can use photos. And if you want me to, I can send you a couple of places where you can find like some ideas of like, this person's about 10 to 12, this person's about 12 to 14. And you can kind of eyeball that. I, as a nutrition coach, somebody who has seen people of all body fat percentages for the last 20 years of my life, I've got a pretty good gauge of estimating about where somebody is at. You can do measurements. There's ways to kind of go at home, do some measurements. Not going to be as accurate, but can still give you a starting place. The most accurate, I shouldn't say the most accurate, the most accessible way to do your body fat percentage that is convenient is probably doing the InBody. A lot of towns now, whether it's at a gym, a fitness center, a supplement store, typically will have some place where you can do the InBody. The DEXA scan is probably a harder one to find, but the most accurate. And I personally, and if you want to, I have a discount link for this. I have invested in a Hume Health scale, and there are other companies that do this. A lot of the smart scales are not great for telling your body fat percentage. I have found that my Hume Health scale, comparatively to my DEXA scan and to my InBody, was within 1%. So even though it might not be 100% accurate, I can use that to gauge my trends over time. As I mentioned, I am in a building phase, so I want to kind of see what's going on with my body fat percentage. So hopefully that helped answer your question, Nana Honey. Nana Honey. That's a cool name. What other questions do you guys have on body composition, body recomposition, losing fat, building muscle, any of that stuff? Pop them up in the chat. Let me look at YouTube. Oh, YouTube's got some. Judy, how much extra strength training do you recommend for somebody who wants to gain muscle, for someone who does one CrossFit class a day? Okay. All right. How much extra strength training do you recommend for someone who wants to gain muscle? I'm going to tell you this. It starts with how much strength training are you currently doing? So when it comes to what is an effective dose of strength training, anywhere from 3 to 5 days a week, depending on the amount of volume per session. Okay. So you can get really good strength gains by doing 3 days a week, but you have to be getting in enough reps and enough sets. And in the CrossFit world, you have to be a little bit more aware of what kind of volume is being programmed into your CrossFit Metcon. Because in a traditional gym, they might say 3 to 5 sets of 3 to 5 reps per exercise per muscle group, per session. Something like that might be something that they say. With CrossFit, we don't do things like that, right? So you might get like back squats 5x5, and then that day the workout might be wall balls and toes to bar. Okay, that's a lot of lower body volume, so I would call that a good lower body day. Whereas you might not be but then again, like looking at CrossFit, you might never touch an upper body pressing movement, right? So like, what if you have to look at the movement patterns, like maybe you haven't touched a bench press or a horizontal press in 2 weeks. So you have to know what's lacking from your quota of strength training. And the best way to do this, if you have goals for yourself aesthetically and you follow a group program, is, I'm going to be honest, this is where you need to be able to take some accountability for yourself and talk to your affiliate owner and look at the weekly program and actually see what you're getting over the course of the week in terms of your muscle, like in terms of your squatting, pressing, your main lifts, your squat, your press, your pulling, your deadlifting. You want to see what you're getting on all of those things so you can see what you're lacking to know if you have to add anything extra or not. Sometimes you don't need to add extra. It's just knowing you might need to add maybe extra volume in those sessions. I don't recommend, so if your goal is strength building and hypertrophy building, a lot of 1 reps and stuff like that isn't going to do that. That's going to build top end strength, but it's not necessarily going to build muscle. Okay. So like those 1 reps aren't going to be enough overload on the muscle groups in order for you to actually see that adaptation. They can be a great way to kind of gauge where you're at so you can see effort off of that off of percentages, but you don't want to be doing a lot of 1 rep. So it really comes down to how much you're currently doing right now. And if there isn't a ton of strength, then I would just make sure that you look at the program and you sprinkle in your strength work on days that it makes sense. So let's just say Tuesday's workout is JT, 21 reps of handstand push-ups, and ring dips, right? A lot of upper body pressing, but maybe there's no upper body pulling all week. So maybe you're doing an upper body pull day. You're like, all right, I'm going to do some strict pull-ups, some lat pull downs, some rows, some bicep curls. That's where like the accessory work can come in. So, or if you see that maybe you're doing a lot of squatting 1 week, but not a lot of deadlifting, maybe you're building in some deadlifts, some hip thrusts and other stuff like that. This is where accessory work can be helpful for CrossFitters who do have like aesthetic goals outside of just, I'm just doing this workout for time or for, obviously for fun. So that was a great question. I've been on a calorie deficit for 8 weeks, definitely have seen fat loss, but scale is still the same. I would like to lose some weight as well. What do I need to change? Okay. If you are in a calorie deficit for 8 weeks and the scale is still the same, I would need to know 2 things. Okay. One is I would probably want to see photos, and has your weight stayed the same the entire time? So for 8 weeks, you've been in a calorie deficit and you've been at the same weight for all 8 weeks, or did it plateau? My gut is also going to tell you that if you're in a calorie deficit and you're not losing weight, it likely means you're not in a calorie deficit. Okay. So if you're in a calorie deficit, you should be seeing the scale go down. Sometimes people are like, and that's why I didn't say this first, is like the whole body recomp thing. Well, maybe you are losing some fat, but at the same time, like your lean muscle mass is going up. And that typically would happen if you've cleaned up your diet a lot and you're eating a lot more food volume. So that the volume of your food is playing a factor into your scale now. Like if you start eating a lot more clean foods, if you are eating more carbohydrates, if you're training a little bit more. But my gut is telling me that you probably are not in a calorie deficit, Lucy. It sounds like you might need some tweaking on your calories and your macronutrients. So I'm not sure how you figured that out, but that would probably be what I would look at and how you're tracking it. That was a good question though. Other questions, guys? I'm loving this. Judy, I haven't seen the CAP programming. I guess I would have to take a look at it. Any other questions? I see 8 people watching on either YouTube or Facebook. I don't even know where y'all are watching from. I should ask you guys, where's everybody coming from? Where's everybody from? I'm from Florida. Florida, if you want to call it that. What other questions do you guys have about building lean muscle? I guess one more thing that I will talk about is a lot of my clientele are in their 30s, 40s, and even their 50s. In that age, I probably get the majority of my clients are from 30 to 65. Believe it or not, 65. I think my oldest client right now is 62, 63. I don't think I have a 65-year-old right at this moment. I've had people in their 70s, believe it or not. Woman that I used to work out with, she was fit, man. She was fit. She was a ballroom dancer, a little bit of everything. But as you age, it is really important to know that, like I said, muscle wasting is a thing. So it is a little bit harder. You have to put a little bit more emphasis on things in terms of strength building. And this is where a lot of people can benefit from a little bit less CrossFit, the very dynamic movements such as snatch and clean and jerk and, the really heavy, like dynamic stuff, the kipping stuff, and more benefit from the more traditional strength work, heavy lunging, heavy squatting, heavy pressing, heavy pulling, that kinds of stuff, because it is a little bit easier on the tendons and the ligaments, and you can still really build a good amount of muscle. So as you guys are aging and you're struggling, this is where you might want to put more of an emphasis on that stuff as well. And just so you know, Judy, I have a couple of clients, they do the CrossFit class and they legitimately just go to a regular gym on their own, and they do their own like bodybuilding session as well. So some of you guys might benefit from that. But again, time is definitely of the essence. So not everybody has that kind of time. So any other questions? Body recomposition, fat loss. Funny enough, I got to tell y'all, this is so crazy to me. I'm gonna be a little bit vulnerable right now and honest with everybody. Okay, I had been given this suggestion because I've had so many people reaching out to me for coaching to start a group program, a group only program where there was no one-on-one touch points. Everything was done in a group format, kind of like you go to your CrossFit classes. Like you don't have a CrossFit coach. You just go to the group class, you all hang out together, you get coaching on your stuff in that session. So I was like, okay, I've tried one in the past, but I'm just so much of I'm just a one-on-one coach. Like I know that nutrition isn't like a one size fits all. So I've always been a little bit insecure about delivering to a group of people without actually still giving them some one-on-one touch points. And that's why I kind of have a hybrid. I have my essentials program, which is we have a group call, but you still get a check-in. Like you still get some feedback on things. It's not as in-depth as my pro option, but it does give you like all of that stuff. So anyways, long story short, I decided to put out a group program. I'm like, you know what? Let me give it a shot. Because I do really good. I do jump starts. I've done jump starts. If you've done one of my jump starts in the past, I love them. They're super fun. They're exciting. And I wanted to do a 12-week jump start. 12-week fat loss fast track. And I put it out there, and I'm putting it out there to you guys too. It's supposed to start on April 7th, which is what's that? It's not even 10 days away. April 7th. Let me look at my calendar. It's supposed to start in literally, and like I said, this is me being vulnerable with you guys, in what? We got another week or so. Okay. I haven't canned it. It's still an opportunity for you guys to get group coaching. But what I have found is every single person that I have talked to about my group program has ended up wanting to do my one-on-one coaching. So I'm like, well, maybe this was a bad idea. Maybe people really don't want a group program. I mean, I kept the price point lower. It's $497. If you reach out to me, I will give you a discount code that'll give you $100 off if you are a listener or follower of mine. So it's $397 for the 12 weeks. And I'm like, okay, this would be like a steal. People that are like not really ready to invest in coaching are going to want to do this. It's going to give them an opportunity to work with me without actually having the high price point. But everybody has wanted to have connection with a coach, which is just awesome. It's just awesome that like, I think that so many people see the value in having somebody actually looking in on them one-on-one. But if it is something that you are interested in, I do have it still out there for open. And if I don't get enough signups for it, I'm not upset about it, because if I only get 5 or 6 people, then we'll do it. And I might actually just end up upgrading and putting you guys into my essentials program and showing you guys what that looks like. So, but it's just funny because I wanted to end on that, because I wanted to tell you all to sign up for it. And I do want to tell you all to sign up for it, but I want you to sign up for it if it's the right thing for you. So it is a 12-week program. More hands off on my end, more do it yourself on your end. You'll get some basic macros to start with, but we are going over everything in the group format. So you're not going to get a weekly check-in. You're not going to get any of that stuff. You're going to get check-in touch bases with me in a group format. So, but if that's not for you, that's okay. I do have other programs, and I really do think my essentials program has kind of been like the hit for everybody. It's kind of right in between done for you and do it yourself. And honestly, if I'd have started all this over again, I probably would have just said, let me not even do the group program and just tell you all to sign up for my essentials, because it's a steal as well. My essentials clients are getting great results. It can be for fat loss. It doesn't have to be for fat loss. And we do have a group call. So it's our calls are awesome. This week's call was so good. Anybody that deals with body dysmorphia or any kind of body image issues, we did a lot of talk about that stuff. But yeah, that was just the last thing that I wanted to touch on today, because it's just funny how things work out. And I'm very grateful. It's been a really good week for me. Excited to meet up with some new people. But that's it. That's all I got for today. If you guys have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to me if you have questions about your own numbers. I know, like Lucy, if you wanted me to take a look at what you're currently doing with your nutrition, I don't mind taking a look at it, just to send me over a quick DM. And that's it, guys. Until the next episode, I will see you all later. Bye.